According to YouTube, StreamYard, the software I'm using, I am live. It's Golden Kazi, live and unscripted, as is most often the case. I see that Danny and Eat Me, my two Montreal subscribers, are already here. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys. Uh, uh, your subscriptions and your participation, your valued participation in this channel. Candy, of course, is my dog, and she jumps all over me at the start of every video because I have been trained. My dog has trained me. She's a border collie, and they're smart, and she has taught me that I have to give her a treat at the start of the video, or I'm going to get jumped over forever. So sit down, shake a paw, lay down, speak, speak. All right, come on up, get your treat. I have my coffee. Uh, Danny's saying hi to Candy. You get that, Candy? Danny says hi. Actually, he probably says bonjour because both Danny and Eat Me are in Montreal. We are Sunday, the 23rd of March. It's just after 10:47 p.m. And my YouTube station is going to be heavily centered on the unfolding Canadian election. There's news coming out all the time. It's almost impossible to keep up with all of it. I found that out yesterday. I believe it was Eat Me who brought to my attention the fact that Mark Carney was announced to be running in a riding called Nepean, which is basically it's part and parcel of the city of Ottawa. They amalgamated many years ago. So Bell's Corners and all these little areas were swallowed up into the greater Ottawa area, all part of the city of Ottawa now, the same way that Etobicoke, North York, East York, Etobicoke all became part of Toronto. And Mark Carney is going to be running in Nepean, and it's interesting how he has done this in a very undemocratic fashion. What he has done is an MP who has represented that riding for the past 10 years, going back to 2015, has been booted, kicked out. The local riding association, what in Canada is referred to as an EDA, that stands for Electoral District Association. So the local Liberal Party members had a nomination meeting and they affirmed that Chandra I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce this gentleman's name. It's an Indian name. Chandra Arya was to be running once again. He ran in 2015, won, 2019, won, 2021, he won. He won 3 elections in a row. He was poised to be the candidate in that riding carrying the Liberal banner. Mark Carney, of course, has no seat. He's never been elected to anything in Canada, yet he's occupying the Prime Minister's office. He's going jet setting around the world, going off to France and Britain for photo opportunities to bolster his public image, not doing anything of any tangible, concrete value, doing nothing for Canadians aside from getting very friendly coverage from media outlets like our CBC, CTV Global. I just read a CBC News article this evening, and they actually show an ad in their coverage. This is an ad that the Liberals are running with Mike Myers, and it is a cheese ball ad if you ever saw one. I don't care about, I like Mike Myers. He's a funny guy. I've watched some of his movies. I think I've seen all the Shrek ones. And I've maybe seen one Austin Powers. He's a funny guy. He used to be on Saturday Night Live, Wayne's World. Lives down in the U.S. right now. They cover that in the ad. Yeah, the campaigns are all going to be about on all sides about who is the most Canadian. This is this election is going to be so little about policy, so little about substance. It's going to be all about banal platitudes and slogans, and that's about it. Who can prove to Canadians that they're the most Canadian? But what has happened is Mark Carney needed to find a seat to run in. And as things stood, as of March 18th, just this past Tuesday, widely reported CBC, CTV Global, all the usual suspects, all reporting the same fact that the Liberals had, as of that date, as of March 18th, they had 188 ridings out of the 343 that are going to be contested in the upcoming election. 188 ridings as of this past Tuesday, had yet to nominate a Liberal candidate. So Mark Carney could have parachuted himself into he could have parachuted into any one of 188 odd ridings. Could have had his choice. And instead, what he does is he kicks out a sitting member of his caucus, a gentleman who wanted to run for the leadership but was denied the opportunity. There had the Liberal Party, which is loath to be open and transparent. They're very opaque. Just trust us, is what they're saying. Just trust us. Is that, he was deemed ineligible. Why? We're not allowed to know. Why did you kick him out of his riding? Well, that was a decision of the Liberal Party executive, and they have a green light committee, and he didn't pass the test. Why not? We're not allowed to know. So Mark Carney gets to go into a long-held Liberal riding, probably about as safe a riding as you're going to find in this country. And meanwhile, he gets to shutter aside a guy who's won 3 elections in a row. And Mark Carney he wants a safe, secure, easy seat to win. And, when you get into places like Ottawa, downtown Montreal, downtown Toronto, I've said this many times, in certain ridings, the Liberals could run a fire hydrant and it would win the riding because people don't vote for local candidates in Canada. We vote for the leader of the party. Canadians, when they go to the polls, I was saying this in my last video, when they go to the polls on April 28th, 9 times out of 10, and probably more than 9 times out of 10, in my opinion, when people mark an X next to the candidate's name, they're going to base it strictly on, I want Mark Carney to be Prime Minister, I want Pierre Poilievre to be Prime Minister. And they're going to pick a conservative candidate. They're going to mark their X next to the conservative candidate. If they want Poilievre, they'll mark their X next to a Liberal candidate if they want Mark Carnival Carney to be our next Prime Minister. My bias should be plain Mark Carnival Carney. And there are suggestions that this Chandra Arya, Arya, I'm not sure how you would pronounce that, Arya, that he may have been the part of this foreign interference scandal that made a lot of press a few years back when the RCMP and CSIS did an investigation and found that Chinese interests had infiltrated local riding nomination processes to get candidates who are friendly with the Communist Party of China. Was he part of that? Liberal Party is not saying, because if they out him, if they say, well, yes, this was one of the candidates who was compromised in our caucus, well, who are all the other ones? Well, they don't want to tell us how many compromised members of the Liberal Party there are, and so they're keeping their mouth shut. They're just shunting this guy aside. This Chandra, I can pronounce that well enough anyway. And they're going to install Mark Carney as the candidate, impose him on the residents of Ottawa, on the residents of Nepean. And Carney is making the assertion, and Liberal Party apologists are asserting that, well, Mark Carney, spent a lot of time raising his family in Ottawa, et cetera, so it's a natural constituency for him to represent. Well, why not kick out the candidate from Ottawa? I'm not sure what riding, Rockcliffe Park, where the uber rich and wealthy live in Ottawa. Rockcliffe Park is basically a stone's throw from the Governor General's mansion from 24 Sussex, what used to be the official Prime Minister's residence. I think it still is. It's just, it's been gutted. It had mold and rats, and the building was in total disrepair. And so, anyway, uh, Carney could choose to kick out the sitting Liberal Party member for the riding that represents Rockcliffe, but he's not doing that. I don't know, maybe it's because the guy's Indian. We all know the Liberal Party. Heck, they had their leader and former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau put on blackface so many times he couldn't even put a number on it. He disrespected Native Canadians on numerous occasions, firing Jody Wilson-Raybould, the first Native woman to ever be Canada's top lawyer or the Attorney General. He tried to interfere in a criminal proceeding. And then when she wouldn't do his bidding, Trudeau fired her. And then when protesters showed up to protest the fact that Trudeau had failed to meet his commitment to clean up the groundwater from mercury poisoning in the Grassy Narrows reserve up in northern Ontario, he laughed at them and said, because they'd paid $1,500 to get access to Trudeau, Trudeau just laughed at them and said, "Thanks for your donation, you stupid Indians." I added the last part in, but that's was the sentiment. That was the undertone. That was the subtext to what our racist former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said. And looks like Mark Carney could be very much cut from the same racist cloth. We all know about his association with Ghislaine Maxwell, pictures out from all the way, just as recently as 2013, years after everyone knew about Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, sexual exploitation of children, with Ghislaine Maxwell now serving a prison sentence for her involvement in those crimes. And these are the people with whom, elbows up. Well, this is who Mark Carney likes to rub elbows with the Ghislaine Maxwells of the world. And he wants us to believe, to trust him. I don't trust him. I'm just going to read up on what's being said. Oh my gosh, we are getting filled up. I got to scroll all the way to the beginning. So Eatney was saying, hello, everyone. Danny, bonsoir, Eatney. Hi, Candy. Let's get through them all. And Eatney is saying, it was me indeed. Yes, I was 99.9% sure. Max Power is here. And that's when I say 99.9% sure that it was Eatney who alerted me to the fact that Mark Carney was parachuting himself, kicking out the candidate chosen by Nepean area Liberals. This is what Eat Me had made me aware of yesterday. And since that time, I've read that there were, as of just Tuesday, there were 188 ridings that did not yet have a Liberal Party candidate. So Mark Carney could have run pretty much anywhere. And instead and I'm going to have something good to say about Trudeau in a bit. I don't have much good to say about him, but I do have one thing that I will give him credit for. Max Power was saying, wow, I've never been here this early before. Happy Sunday, everyone. Happy Sunday to you too, Max. I like the stream too, but it's mine. So I have ownership bias, as it were. Everyone's just talking. So what's Max saying? He's saying liberals throw another person under the bus. A long history of that, mentioning Jody Wilson-Raybould, Jane Philippot, Ruby Dahlia. If you don't play ball, if you don't go along with the globalist agenda, you're gone. If you don't do favors to liberal-friendly companies like SNC-Lavalin, you're gone. You've got to toe the party line. Sharunians, he's saying that we cannot trust politicians these days, and unfortunately, that's the truth. That's the truth. Rhett, who is down in the great state of Wyoming, writes the maple leaf is the most Canadian. And Max Power is saying that Mark Carney called himself a European. He's a citizen of the world. He's a globalist. Canada's last. That's why he moved Brookfield. When he was chairman of the board, it was under his leadership that Brookfield Asset Management decided to take those high-paying jobs and take them out of Toronto and put them into Donald Trump's playground of New York City. He's not a Canada first guy. No, he's a Mark Carney first guy, a globalist first guy. He's on the board of directors at the World Economic Forum. That should tell anyone with eyes open all they need to know. The World Economic Forum wants Canada subjugated. They want to take down the standard of living in Western developed nations. They want to lower the standard of living, lower expectations, get us owning nothing and liking it, transitioning off of meat-based protein to crickets and other, insect forms of protein. This is the world that is envisioned by the Mark Carney types. And we need to talk about it as much as possible. Everyone's saying good evening to each other. Danny's saying that Mark Carney has lived longer abroad than in Canada. I don't know if that's empirically true. Whatever the case, he spent some years he was born in the Northwest Territories, apparently, according to all the bio information I can get my hands on, spent some time growing up in Edmonton. He's been educated in the US. I think he went to Harvard and Oxford or Cambridge. I think it was Oxford. He's a big money player. He's part of the global elite. They co-opted him. They brought him on board. They let him rub shoulders and elbows with Ghislaine Maxwell and that type of crowd. He's got very little in common with real Canadians. See if anything's. Brett saying, I want Mark Carney, LOL, Gordon going to lose. You want Mark Carney to win, so I'll go insane. You know what? Canada will survive if Mark Carney wins, but I don't think he will. I think if enough Canadians realize what's at stake and put their nose to the wheel, to use a bit of a trite platitude of my own, and get out and flood social media, and especially in our conversations with friends, colleagues, neighbors, everyone that you meet, and trash all over Mark Carney. And thankfully, he gives us lots of material, rubbing shoulders with Ghislaine Maxwell, moving high-paying Canadian jobs from Toronto to New York and then lying about it, going on expensive photo opportunities that do nothing when he hasn't even been elected to a seat in our House of Commons, going to France and Great Britain, investing in companies that promote building pipelines in other countries, while Canada's resources and vast wealth in oil, things like oil and gas, stays in the ground. That's Mark Carney. Refusing to disclose what his assets are. Is he benefiting from the decisions he's making? There is something coming up that's going to be a positive for Canadians. We're probably going to be looking at gasoline dropping by somewhere around 17 cents a liter on April 1st. And that is because Mark Carney, by order in council, kind of like an American executive order, dropped the federal carbon tax down to zero. And so on April 1st, the carbon tax gets removed from gasoline, and the HST that gets applied on top of that adds up to about 17 cents. So gasoline right now, where I am, it's about $1.47 a liter. So it's going to drop to about $1.30. That's a significant drop. And that's going to feel good. Like it's a gimmick, because what Mark Carney has promised to do is to replace it. Once he gets reelected, he is saying that he is going to replace the now 0% carbon tax with a new levy directly on companies themselves. And so oil and gas companies are going to get hit directly with higher costs that they're going to have to pay to the government of Canada. And who are they going to pass those costs on to? You and me. This is a bait and switch. But, and this is why he called it an incredibly short election campaign. I think it's 36 days in total, the least number of days you can have for a federal election in Canada. And that's because he knows he's got a lot to lose. And I think we can take him down. What's Emi is saying, Chandra is small fry. My bet is on Han Dong, whatever his name is spelled. Brett Skinner believes all politicians are compromised. And Eat Me is saying, yeah, Brett was again my mom's personal IT. Her computer kept freezing after 3 minutes of starting up. Side conversations. Danny, with respect to 24 Sussex Drive, is saying that the estimated cost to restore the Prime Minister's official residence to good condition is around like 30, it's tens of millions of dollars. And goodness knows if they say it's estimated to cost 36.6, you know, they're going to be cost overruns. It's going to go up and up and up. And that's one thing I won't criticize Trudeau for refusing to live in that. That residence has been in disrepair going back to the days of Justin Trudeau's father, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, and no sitting prime minister has ever wanted to put the money in required to maintain it properly. Even Stephen Harper, even Brian Mulroney, no one wanted to maintain it properly because of the optics that Canadians would go, oh, just, you know, feathering your nest at the expense of Canadians. And so it's been allowed to, and now what they've had to do is they've gone in and from what I understand, what I have read, they basically gutted it. And now it needs to be there's some calls to have the property completely demolished and then rebuilt. You know, and so what Justin Trudeau did is he went to what is typically referred to as the cottage, which is a residence on the grounds of Rideau Hall, the residence of the Governor General. And that's where Trudeau lived in it. That seemed to me something I won't give him any grief over. It seemed a reasonable decision. It's a stately enough residence, a little low key. And let's face it, the prime minister is not the head of state in Canada. You know, it's the king, it's the crown, as represented by the governor general. So they get the big fancy residence, and the prime minister gets a little cottage on the grounds of Rideau Hall. I think that's workable, but we'll see what happens. Let's see, trying to catch up. Max is writing that Carney already has protesters. His campaign brought in police to stop fishermen protesters from coming in. They're going, I mentioned this in my last video. They're going to run a very controlled campaign, incredibly controlled. They're going to want things very tight. They're not going to be doing town halls. They're going to limit to the greatest extent possible Mark Carney's exposure to the public. He's not a good politician. He's out of his arena, and he's not particularly good at things. He's already been caught lying on several occasions, and it's not a good look. And so they're going to be handing him his talking points, telling him to stick to those talking points, and they're going to be banal platitudes with no substance to them. And it's going to be basically, I'm a good Canadian boy, trust me. That is basically the Mark Carney message. I'm a good Canadian boy. Trust me. Don't worry about my association with Ghislaine Maxwell. That's ignore that. That's just the opposition trying to cast aspersions on me. Trust me. Do you trust? Well, the jobs that got sent down from Toronto to New York while I was chairman at Brookfield, well, forgive me for that. I shouldn't have done it maybe. I don't know how he's going to play that one off. The press is not going to hound him on it, and they're not going to expose him to Canadians who would put his feet to the fire. They're gonna control this campaign as much as possible. He's got his Hollywood buddies like Mike Myers, helping out. A lot of Canadians like Mike Myers. He's a funny guy, puts out funny movies. How politically astute is Mike Myers? I have no idea. When's the last time he lived in this country? Whatever. Uh, the one thing I did want to bring up about Justin Trudeau, and the one area I'll give him some credit for, is back in 2008 when he first decided to run as an MP for the Liberal Party. He went to the Liberal Party and wanted, a safe riding. Can I run in my dad's old riding of Westmount, which the Liberals always win? The Liberal Party said no. We're not going to give you an easy seat. Go contest somewhere. Go put your name up somewhere and get your name on the ballot legitimately. So Trudeau said, okay, and he went to Papineau, which is an East End Montreal riding that was held by the Bloc Québécois. So he went into a riding that was held by another political party, and he, in 2008, stole or took that seat from the Bloc Québécois. Mark Carney is even worse than Trudeau. Mark Carney should be saying, you know what? I have roots in Edmonton. I went to school there. It's where all my hockey pictures are. It's where I went around the ice looking like a donut, at North or whatever they call the arena, Rogers Center, Rogers Arena, where the Edmonton Oilers play. We'll run in Edmonton, Mark, but no, that would be hard. And Mark doesn't want things to be hard. He wants an easy, soft pickings riding. So pick out a guy who's been representing the riding for the last 10 years, has won 3 elections in a row, and let's have Mark Carney run instead. And Nepean area voters will probably elect him. Brett is writing that Canada will not survive. They will opt to be 51st state if Canada wins. Well, I think that genuinely, I think that's the reason Donald Trump is hoping Carney wins, is the Liberals will be a softer touch for incorporating Canada into the United States. Because Carney's been the top economic advisor to Trudeau's Liberals for the last 5 years, and they've been driving this country into the ground. So now we're going to have, instead of the hand operating the puppet, now we're going to have the guy operating. Now we're going to have the guy behind the curtain. Mark Carney is stepping out. It's no longer a little puppet Trudeau with Mark Carney pulling his strings. Now it's Mark Carney stepping out and moving jobs down to the United States, high-paying Canadian jobs. Rubbing shoulders with Ghislaine Maxwell. Jet setting around the world, going to France and Great Britain, not doing anything except photo opportunities, hoping to win an election. And we can take him down, but it's going to take everyone. It's going to take every conservative-minded Canadian, getting on an oar and rowing and working toward defeating him. Whether you're in Alberta or Saskatchewan or Ontario or down east, in this digital world, we all can amplify our voices. I'm writing as much as I can on my Facebook timeline. The last missive I sent out has been shared 5 or 6 times. Who knows? And then from there, it might get shared out some more. I haven't been writing political commentary for a while, but I'm gonna keep pounding away at it. I've got to mention, I've got to do another post about this situation in Nepean and how the Liberal Party is acting, de rigueur. This is standard operating procedure for them to ignore democratic conventions and just install candidates. Let's see what else is being written. Is what an April Fool's prank, the gas tax. Now they're going to drop it. Well, and this played into Mark Carney's timing. Why was the writ just dropped? Why are we going to the polls so quickly? Is so that Canadians hopefully don't have time to think over the fact that, holy crap, what's going to happen to the price of gas once Carney gets his hands on government and then imposes carbon taxation directly on oil and gas companies. There goes that 16, 17 cents a liter I was saving. Now it's probably going to be 30 cents more. And It's like what Trudeau did when he tried to bolster his support by giving us a brief little holiday on the GST, a gimmicky little holiday. Thought that Canadians would be dumb enough to, put some wind in his sails and help him maintain his grip on power. And Canadians aren't that stupid, are we? I hope we're not stupid enough to fall for the gas tax garbage, because it'll be a 1 month holiday and then jack it up again if Carney gets reelected. Let's see. Eat Me is writing that sharp cheddar is good in tomato soup. Okay. Uh, Brett is saying that, did I hear that the Democrats love the most recent news military jet announced called the F-47? Nope. Haven't heard anything about the F-37. I'm still on the F-35. Um, Max is writing, I have to wonder if Carney wants to purposely crash the economy to keep a commercial carbon tax on industry, which might also be hit with tariffs, could be crippling to Alberta. Alberta has so much untapped wealth that guys like Carney have worked to have kept in the ground while, promoting pipelines in other parts of the world. Carney wants Canadians bending the knee. The whole globalist agenda is about bringing down the standard of living in this post-nationalistic world. You lower the standard of living in Canada and the US. You look at and the Western world, you have wide open immigration, backfilling everyone with, because our fertility rates in the West are pathetically low. Now, for some reason, and I keep reading about this on Dr. John Campbell's station on YouTube, as well as Asim Malhotra and countless others, about the significantly higher excess death rate that we've been experiencing in the Western developed world for the last 3-4 years, for whatever reason. I'm not going to guess why all of a sudden, I keep hearing about cases of aggressive, so-called, apparently this is there's no such thing as turbo cancer, apparently. They just call it, but I'm hearing about these super aggressive cancers that people are having, autoimmune disease. It seems every day I meet someone who's just been diagnosed with celiac disease or some other autoimmune condition. And so what's happening is, a sick and dying Western population is being backfilled from countries like India that have, individuals with high levels of education, but whose expectations vis-a-vis, democracy, human rights are not that great. They're thrilled to be living in a country where running water for a lot of people in the world is something of a luxury. Um, let's do a Hunger Games situation. See what Eat Me wrote. Alberta is probably going to separate if Carney wins. We'll see if that happens. It was so funny. Mark Carney was in Alberta talking about unlocking the potential of the Alberta economy by bringing their resources to market. That was while he was in Alberta. Then he goes down east and he trashes all over Alberta's economy by saying we need to clamp down on the oil and gas sector even more. One message for the West, one message for the East. What we need is someone who speaks with one voice. And for myself, and I know there are individuals watching my station who are inclined towards Maxime Bernier and the People's Party of Canada, and I'm not unsympathetic to those individuals. What I'm telling you right now, I think our best, you put some water in the wine. That's what I'm doing. I voted PPC the previous two elections. This time, I'm basically all in with Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives. I did not like Andrew Scheer. I did not like Aaron O'Toole. That was a big part of the reason that pushed me to the PPC. I did not like the way that Andrew Scheer got into bed with our communist style dairy board, that lobby group that seeks to inflate the cost of cheese and dairy products in Canada, milk. Not a big. I'm a libertarian, free market capitalist, and seeing Andrew Scheer cozy up to that lobby bothered me. Aaron O'Toole never impressed me at all, but Pierre Poilievre is the sharpest guy we've had on the political scene in Canada for a long time. Very sharp, analytic mind. His one failing, I think, is that Canadians do like someone who sounds all warm and fuzzy. That's how come you had 30-ish% of Canadians willing to vote for an idiot like Trudeau. It's because, well, he sounds sincere. He says the right words, even if, we'll judge him by his words, not by his actions. And we need to, don't judge Mark Carney by his words. Judge him by his actions, moving Canadian jobs down to New York City. Judge him by his actions, traveling to Great Britain and France on a photo op and doing nothing concrete or tangible for hardworking Canadians. Zero. It's just a photo opportunity. It's what he's used to. He's a jet setter. He likes to go to Wimbledon. You know, this is what we're faced with. Um, I think there's a very strong possibility that, yeah, Albertans could. They've got the most American outlook in terms of a province in Canada. They are the most Americanized. They're entrepreneurial in spirit a lot of the time, not all, but in terms of broad-based, the Alberta identity is most closely aligned with the United States, far more so than any province in Canada. Probably the least in that regard would be Quebec, la belle province de Quebec. And now, goodness knows. Let's see what Eat Me is writing. We'll remember that definitely. I make my own. What is it with tomato soup? Um, Mike Myers is a sellout. Hey, I'd take his money. I'll tell you that. He'd be saying most actors are sellouts. Let's see. Max is saying, I'm also glad to see that Pierre is talking about Century Initiative being promoted by Carney. Carney wants to rapidly increase the Canadian population to 100 million. I've got to read. There's something else now I have to read up on Century Initiative. Oh, because the Canadian identity. Trudeau and Carney, these globalist types, they espouse this doctrine of a post-nationalist world. There's no Canadian identity. As Trudeau famously said this, and Mark Carney, the two are joined at the hip ideologically. This idea that there's no core Canadian identity anymore. And what's so ironic is now he's running on a message that is trying to build up the Canadian identity, is trying to put himself out there as the great defender of the Canadian identity from a guy who basically wants to erase the Canadian identity. Any port in a storm to win this election. Insane. Thank you for that, Brett. I always appreciate the likes. I'm not going to go on too much longer. It is late. It's now 11:25 p.m. my time zone Eastern. I will have more to say in the days and weeks to come. There's going to be I'm going to be talking a lot about politics, but I need to get back into my faith as well. I was in church today, heard an amazing sermon breaking down the Lord's Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And how it's a checklist. It's not to be recited by rote necessarily. It can be, but pray like this, not pray exactly these words. It was a great sermon, Pastor Dave at church, and continuing to watch my streaming show, The Chosen, about to embark on season 4. We'll be watching episode 1 on Tuesday. I'm working tomorrow night. I work tonight till 9. I'm working tomorrow until 9, so we're going to have to wait till Tuesday. Thanks for that, Brett, as well. Leave a comment. I do love seeing the comment field filled up. Um, let's see, lots. Uh, Max is in agreement with myself that a vote for the PPC is a vote for the Liberals, and this might be the most important election in our generation. It seems that every election we face, it's always this is the most important election Canadians have ever faced. I can remember that was 1988 when the these globalist types sold Canada out, and we entered into the free trade agreement with the United States, and then later Mexico. And then uh, you had that Trans-Pacific trade deal that they tried to cram down our throats. Thankfully, that's one of the things I like that Donald Trump did. He tore it up. He said, no Trans-Pacific trade deal. Thank goodness. There's some new stuff coming out from Trump that I don't like, but I do like some of the stuff he does. We have a guy like Mark Carney in Canada who says that Canada needs to be, quote unquote, more woke. No, we don't need to be more woke. And that's one thing I like about what Donald Trump has done. He has recognized that there are two genders, male and female. That's obvious. And it doesn't matter who says it. You don't have to like Donald Trump to acknowledge that, okay, well, at least he got gender right. Whereas our left wing neo fascist types want to cram this horrific gender ideology down that advocates, mutilating surgeries on kids. I mean, and that's what it is. When you do double mastectomies and castration on children, and this is supposed, and they put it under the rubric of care. Oh, because we care, we're going to mutilate your body and ensure that you have no life beyond your own. And this is called care by the fascist style liberals that we have living in this country today. And Mark Carney says we need more of this. We need more woke. We need more kids having mutilating surgeries. No, Mark, we do not. That is not a Canadian value. That's your globalist elite garbage WEF value system. Go screw around with Ghislaine Maxwell all you like and leave Canada alone. Danny's saying we judge a tree by its fruits, not its roots. Jesus is king. Mark Carney also supports CBDC, a central bank digital currency, programmable money, which Max views as the most terrifying thing. Yeah, it's the surveillance state. Even Trump is in on this. He's now calling them freedom cities. We've heard them previously referred to as 15-minute cities. Trump has a new branding statement on them, freedom cities. Am I on board with this? I think Elon Musk is a Trojan horse in the Trump administration. I think Trump is being led astray, and it's going to be bad news for a lot of Americans if he gets on the globalist train. Yeah, and Amy saying that, well, this is the thing. Carney is used to being chairman of the board. Shut up and sit down, and stick to the agenda. I'm in charge. That's what he's used to. Count. He doesn't like being questioned. He likes to deal with people the way Trudeau did. Jody Wilson-Raybould. You give my buddies a sweet plea bargain, and if you don't, you're out of here. And she said she flipped him the bird, and he said, "All right, you're out of caucus. You're demoted. You're no longer Attorney General, and you're out of the party. You can't ever run as a liberal again." That's the Trudeau Carney model. And Max is saying that PR has come out against CBDCs. Danny's referring to I think that was the referendum, the second referendum in 1995, as being the most important election in Canada. Who knows? Quebec came that close to separating. The difference was they had a referendum in Quebec. They had one back in around 1984 with René Lévesque, and then they had a second one with Jacques Parizeau when he was premier, and Lucien Bouchard was in Ottawa. And the yes, let's separate side got 49.2% of the vote. And the no will stay in Canada side got 50.8. It was razor thin, insanely thin. Hey, John 5 has shown up. Wonderful to have everyone here chiming in. Anyway, one thing I want to let you know, I'm going to start doing some videos at different times. Most of my videos have been going out late in the evening, 9, 10, 10:45, 11 o'clock, 11:30 even sometimes, and sometimes early in the morning. But I'm going to start to try and do some videos during the day. Days when I'm off work, I'm going to start publishing some content to my channel at those times, doing them live like I am now, hopefully a little shorter in duration, and you know, pounding out as much as I can on every screw up that Mark Carney makes and just repeating the same points over and over again. Ghislaine Maxwell, moving jobs to New York City, traveling to France and Great Britain, doing nothing except wasting taxpayer money. You know, trashing all over the Alberta resource economy, failing to disclose his financial assets, playing fast and cute with our ethics laws. Well, I'm going to follow it to the letter. Kick out a 3-time, elected MP because I won his riding. I'm entitled. I'm Mark Carney. Oh God, God help us. And then Danny's writing, you'll be freer outside of a freedom city. Oh yeah, that's something else to dive into, but that's on the American side right now. Just know that Mark Carney, trust me, he's all in on 15-minute cities. He's probably not smart enough to give it a nice branding label like a freedom city, or maybe he is. Max is saying that calling it a freedom city is very Orwellian. It's like the Ministry of Truth from 1984, where Winston, the main character in that book, worked. John's writing about the October crisis with René Lévesque. And Max is saying that more content is needed during the election with so much bias legacy helping Carney. Well, that's I'm going to do what I can. Do what I can. Like, share, subscribe, do all the above. I need to get a little more focused, polished in my messaging. I may do some videos that are not live and interactive, just to allow me to get short little blasts out there. So that this is what we have to do because we've got a propagandistic lying media in this country. CBC might as well be the old Soviet Union TASS news agency. It's lying propaganda. They're in their news coverage, they're showing an ad that he ran with see if I can share it here. I haven't done sharing on StreamYard before. Let's see. Share screen. Okay. I don't know. I don't know how well this is going to work, but let's see. Share. So there you go. This is an ad. This is what I was reading. Previously held by Liberal MP Chandra Arya, it borders riding where Polyev is seeking re-election. And they showed this ad. Make them pay for advertising. No, liberals will, the liberal friendly media. So here it is.
Let's go. Mr. Prime Minister, Mike Myers, what are you doing here?
I just thought I'd come up and check on things.
You live in the States.
Yeah, but I'll always be Canadian.
But you live in the States.
Yeah, so?
Do you remember Mr. Dressup?
The children's show on CBC?
What were the names of Mr. Dressup's two puppet friends?
Casey and Finnegan?
Bud the
Spud?
Howie,
Meeker?
Capital Saskatchewan.
Regina?
Tragically.
Hip?
You're a defenseman defending a 2-on-1. What do?
Take away the pass, obviously.
What are the 2 seasons in Toronto?
Winter and construction?
Wow. You really are Canadian.
Yeah. But let me ask you, Mr. Prime Minister, will there always be a Canada?
There will always be a Canada.
All right. Elbows up.
Elbows up.
That just makes me want to puke. That was high school level acting at best. At best. That was so pathetic. So, and this is in a CBC News article that they're doing this, giving the Liberals free advertising. This is what we can expect. So anyone like me with the, wherewithal to stick my neck out with a YouTube channel and start spreading some truth out there when we're drowning in CBC sponsored lies. Let's go. So let me read off the last few. See if I can catch up. Talking about the price of lobster. And it looks like this will be the last message. Mark Carney's impersonation of a human being, let alone Canadian, was embarrassing. They'll probably pull that ad at some point. It's that bad. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'm going to leave you now. Be back on tomorrow night, probably. And again, I'll probably be doing later in the week some streams during the day. Danny's quoting George Carlin favorite line. You don't involuntary protein spill as a euphemism for vomiting. And then we have, so that was Mike Myers taking some cash for a skin, probably like Beyonce did for the, oh, it didn't look like Mike Myers. He's the professional Hollywood type, and his acting was just as bad as Mark Carney's. So maybe his heart wasn't in it. Maybe they got some dirt on him, and it's like you got to help Mark out. Who knows? Who knows in this crazy upside down world? We'll talk to you later. I like to end my videos with a blessing. If you're new to this, I am a Christian, and in this crazy upside down world, we can all use some truth, and Jesus is the truth, the way, and the life. And the blessing is I like to end my videos with is from the Bible, Numbers chapter 6, verse 24. If memory serves, may the Lord bless and keep you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and make his face to shine upon you. May the Lord be gracious to you, and may he grant you peace. And even in this crazy upside down world, there is peace to be found. So we'll see y'all in a night or two. And again, like, share, subscribe. You know the whole drill. And we'll talk to you very soon. God bless all night.